We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
With global pals, it's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita.
And Ellen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
Everything Theater. Hi there, I'm Benita Zahn.
and I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And this is a little different for us. Usually we record in the evening,
Yeah.
but we've got two great shows that we're doing today with incredibly fabulous guests. And given their crazy schedule, we all got up early and we're doing it in the morning. And we're going to jump right in with Britney Coleman, who is playing Bobbie in Company, which is launching at Proctors. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I jumped onto your bio, and right away it tells you she's a proud Wolverine from Ann Arbor, Michigan. You know, it's not, oh, I was this, no, I like my team.
Absolutely. I'm born and raised in Ann Arbor too, so that started at a very young age.
You didn't have a choice, did you?
Nope.
In some ways, I mean, you did have a choice about theater, but you come from a family where performance was, you guys were all involved.
Yeah, especially on my dad's side. He's one of 10 kids in his family, and all of them sang and played instruments in church. So that's definitely the musical side of the family.
And now you're picking up a role that was traditionally, for so many years, the show launched in this, I think it was 1970, actually, played by a man. You're playing the lead, you're playing Bobbie in Company. And there have been essays, doctoral thesis papers written about Bobbie. Who is he? What does he stand for? Where is he going? What does it mean in terms of our society? And then a couple of years ago, somebody said, maybe Bobbie's a woman.
Yes, that was our brilliant director, Marianne Elliott. She's had this idea for years, and really it took a long time to pitch it to Stephen Sondheim, our wonderful composer, when he was still with us, to kind of get him on board with Bobbie being a woman. And she did it. She was successursual.
Go ahead, Ellen. Sorry. In the old days when we sat next to each other, it was a lot easier.
How does that impact the role? How have you approached the role from that perspective? Do you think about the fact that it was a male ever at all? Or are you just looking at fresh eyes as this is a completely new role in the way? Or is there a blend of genders? How have you approached it?
It's definitely a little bit of both. At the time when it was written, a man turning 35, not married, no kids, no nothing, that meant something different than a woman turning 35 in 2023 who does not have kids, who all of her friends are married and they have strong opinions about that. It definitely feels like a brand new show. It's really, really cool. We've kind of weaved some baby crying sound effects in the show, just because, at 35 as a woman, that's something, you really have to consider if you want kids or not. I mean, I'm certainly in that boat, and that's something, pretty personal that I bring to this role. And our script, for the most part, aside from some pronouns being changed, is almost exactly the same. It's almost exactly intact. And I think it still is relevant and still reads fresh today. It's pretty incredible.
The male Bobbie had a string of one-night stands.
Yeah, the girlfriends in the original Company are some pretty iconic characters. They have some incredible songs. And now here it's boyfriends. And it's still kind of treated the same way. These are three men who she never really settled down with. And there are some points in the show on which she ponders that as to why hasn't she settled down with these guys? And then you get to kind of spend some time with all three of them, and then you kind of realize why she hasn't.
I specifically think about the song Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
But back in 1970, men were not airline attendants.
No.
That's changed too.
Yeah, we have a wonderful male flight attendant. The character's name is Andy, and he's played by Jacob Dickey, who is just wonderful and sweet and hilarious. So it really works. It's really funny. It feels much more like palatable now. I think if I was watching the show and the genders were swapped back to what they originally were, I think I'd feel a little different about it. But I feel like I'm really embracing this switch.
There's a bit of misogyny, actually,
Mhm.
when Bobbie's a guy. But
Yep.
and the interesting thing is because the show has seen a number of reconstitutions, I'll
Yeah.
call it, in so many different ways. They did it in the square with everybody playing music. The set was the square, but when this launched, this was not a success.
No, I think it was pretty polarizing, actually.
Yeah.
Still think it's kind of like that today. It's not your conventional musical theater piece in terms of, once upon a time and then the end. It kind of meanders. And I think that's why it's so fascinating to so many people. I think that's the brilliance of Sondheim. I love it.
Was this the role you wanted, Britney?
Ha, that's a good question. Okay, I got to see the show when it was produced in London for the first time. Just by chance. I was there on vacation, and I actually wanted to go see Hadestown because it was also in London, but they were playing in rep with another show at the National. So I had the night free, and I was like, okay, well, what can I see on the West End? I saw Company, and that's the first time I thought, oh, roles like this are actually available to me. I didn't ever consider it. And even when the Broadway production came around, I actually auditioned for the role of Susan, I believe.
The divorced wife.
Yeah. And then they offered me the Bobbie cover. Like it just it just kind of fell into my lap. And like thankfully, in terms of casting and everybody, on the other side of the table, like the creative team, like we like to say, like they saw that in me, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And I've really, really learned to step into it and embrace it. It's been really fun. But did I seek it out from the beginning and say that role is mine? Absolutely not. No.
Wow.
But I'm happy to be a part of the show. That's something I definitely wanted to
Yeah.
sink my teeth into. I have to be a part of this, and in whatever capacity. And if it's Bobbie, so be it.
You went from a role that's really minor. Susan's probably, well, it's the smallest wife role, I
Yeah.
think, in the Friends, to
Yeah. In our production, though, Susan also plays the priestess during the wedding scene for Jamie and Paul. And that priestess is vital to the scene. It is one of the best features, I think, in this entire show. Because we have the way we have staged the not getting married today scene is one of the most genius pieces of theater I've ever seen. There's so many elements involved, and I don't want to give away any of the the tricks and whatnot, but it's magical. I'll say that.
we're going to see it. So we'll be cheering in the audience.
Great.
And has it been what's your history of working with Sondheim work? I mean, it's obviously very tricky music. It's amazing music. How is it tackling this show with this pivotal role?
Oh, my very first musical, and pretty much the only musical I did in high school, was Into the Woods. And I played the baker's wife, and that changed my life. I think it really opened so many ideas of what musical theater could be. The baker's wife has that moment in the woods song where she's really contemplating, it could either be yes or and or and she gets the space to really work things out. And I think that's really similar in Bobbie and Company, in which most of her songs, she's just trying to work things out. yeah, I didn't realize that musicals could be like that. And then in college, I played Florinda in Into the Woods. And then my very first professional production where I got my equity card, I played Rapunzel in the show. And then the last time I did Into the Woods was probably 6-7 years ago. And I got to play Cinderella and I got to wear the original Broadway costumes. I've just had a very long, influential journey with Into the Woods. So that's, yeah, I've really explored Sondheim through various roles throughout that show. And I think, yeah, maybe Into the Woods is only the big, Sondheim show I've done besides Company.
You're heading out. How long's the tour run for?
We go through October of next year of 2024.
Let me throw a little cold water just because we're seeing it locally. COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, let's, fingers crossed we don't see what we had seen, but it's reared its head again. And we've seen some local productions shortened, close. Are you as a cast taking any special precautions so that you don't get nailed?
Sure. So this was my pandemic show on Broadway. We got to put the show up and running. We were in previews on Broadway with Company. Then we shut down maybe 2 weeks before we were officially scheduled to open. So we all stayed in contact throughout. We were doing Zoom rehearsals before we realized we weren't going to be back anytime soon. And then we came back and we're masked and we're doing all of the highest protocols. Our company actually took extra measures with our testing. So it's deeply ingrained into my system, protecting myself during Company. But we are running by our union's guidelines for the most part. As far as anything particularly special and not out of the norm, I don't know if we're doing any of that, but it's pretty much just standard precautions for the most part, in terms of, I think we just had a wave in New York City of some sort of COVID similar thing going around. So we were masking to our comfort level during rehearsals. And I think everyone's trying to just be really conscious when we're traveling.
Live in a little bubble, the cast and.
Yeah, we're very much in our own little bubbles for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of touring around, so you've done national tours before. What's your experience as an actor jumping from place to place to place?
Yeah, I realize I'm in a very unique position jumping from one tour to the other. I just left the Beetlejuice tour to start rehearsals for this. I I signed on for a year of Beetlejuice, and then within the first week of rehearsal, I got the call for this. And thankfully, Beetlejuice was very, very kind, and they let me out of my contract maybe 2 months early or so I could come and launch this one. But I had about 2 weeks in between, and I wish I had a little bit more time to reset and rest, but I'm really, really glad I was on the road prior to this. Just to kind of get a scope and lay of the land as far as audiences showing up around the country. And what I learned was that I think audiences are really excited to have live theater back. I mean, things have been open post-pandemic for a while now, but I still feel that everyone is very, very thrilled to be back in a space, with thousands of people enjoying the same thing at the same time. That is what live theater is. That's the magic of it. And I can tell that folks have really missed it. And that's what this show is about, to be honest, is embracing the company that you have. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really thrilled to bring this show, which is incredibly different. We'll have different audiences than Beetlejuice did.
Yeah. Yeah. And interesting, Beetlejuice, I believe, is coming through.
It is. I walked into my dressing room. I was like, oh, I think I should leave something for our actor playing Beetlejuice that's going to be here in a couple of weeks.
You were coming to Schenectady one way or the other.
Exactly. Yep, I was always destined to come here.
once you start checking in, so you're
We're-
checking in now. Yeah, as we speak. Right. That's why we're so early with you.
Yes. We
We're
go.
and you open on Wednesday. And how long is your run?
Here in Schenectady, we're here for about a week, I believe. Yeah, we go Sunday to Sunday, basically.
So, order your tickets is the point.
Yes.
Right. And that's right. You do. And first, when we were booking this, they said matinee on Sunday. Yeah, because friends were going to go to the matinee today. We're all going, during the week. So, and because a Sunday matinee is not traditional.
No, this feels like a very, very quick process here. And it has been actually a very quick process for our rehearsals for this show in particular. It's so dense with material and movement and everything. So we are expediting this train, and Schenectady is going to be our first wonderful kind of testing ground.
Yeah.
Technically, we have like some previews, and then we officially open Tuesday night, which is the 8th or 10th, I believe. Yeah.
I think the official opening is Wednesday. We're coming to a preview on Tuesday to see you. I think the press night, is Wednesday.
Interesting. Okay, great.
So now you got a little inside scoop. You've had some wonderful experiences prior to this. I mean, you were in the revival of Sunset Boulevard on Broadway with Glenn Close.
Yes.
Okay, Dish.
That was a really special production. That was my Broadway debut. And I think it was kind of just this combination of all wonderful things where Glenn wasn't eligible to win a Tony for that because she had already won it for that role. So there wasn't this kind of pressure that so many Broadway shows have of like, it has to be perfect. It has to be right. We have to win all the Tonys. It was such a beautiful passion project, especially for her. It felt like a very meta experience for her playing Norma Desmond for a second time. I think it was about 20 years after it originally had come out. And that was really special. That was a really, really good group of people. Very grateful for that experience.
You also did Beautiful, the Carole King musical.
Yeah, I launched the first national tour of that, and then shortly after that joined the Broadway company for a little bit.
Tootsie?
Yep. That was fun, with it being that was my first experience doing a very brand new Broadway show, where we're kind of like what I had explained with Sunset. There was that pressure of, okay, we have to get it right the first time. This is it. This is its introduction into, the world. So that was really fun.
Did that change as you were going? Was there, I'm sorry, did they noodle with it? Look at the face. Yeah.
Yeah. We opened, we did our out-of-town tryout in Chicago. And I remember the costume people running to Macy's at every break to buy new costumes for us, because they were changing so many of the costumes. And then when we got to New York, we still had brand new costumes. They went through a lot of costume pieces for the show. Brand new songs. Oh gosh, one of the songs had just a completely different set of lyrics. So that was a big switch that we all had to do. But it's fun though. That's the fun part about making new theater is showing up to work the next day with like a brand new stack of papers of sheet music and script that you need to memorize for that night.
That's what I was wondering. Like you have something iconic as company that audiences are coming in with a preconceived notion of what the show is. They've probably seen it before, versus a new show where you are really molding these characters for the first time. Do you have a preference of like jumping into those iconic, well-loved shows or starting afresh?
I definitely like to start afresh, I think, because there's something about especially with touring, so many folks have only heard the cast album. They haven't seen the songs in context. They haven't seen, what proceeds into these songs. So, a lot of the, like, especially with Beetlejuice, a lot of the feedback was like, oh, I had no idea this song actually started in this way. I've only heard such and such from the album. So that's fun. But also I think doing something brand new is the most exciting to me, at least.
Is there something on the wish list? I mean, you've got such a body of experience, and really, and you were in Ragtime. You played Sarah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yep, that was college. Yeah, I think that's my next thing. I really want to do something brand new, whatever that ends up being.
Excellent. And how do you, with such a demanding role, doing 8 shows a week for, typical like Broadway run and so forth is demanding enough. But then you
Mhm.
add on touring and moving around and being in new places with new climates and air quality and all sorts of things. How do
Oh,
you take care of yourself to get through the rigorous performance schedule?
yeah, another reason why I'm so glad I just got off tour, um, because I have my routines now. I have to travel with a humidifier. I have to be able to have access to certain gym equipment and that kind of thing. I have to be able to sleep. Oh my gosh, that's some of the hardest things to get, is just sleep on tour, because we're in different beds. Sometimes a lot of these tours will just do 1 week at a time, so every Monday you're sleeping in a brand new bed. So I had to start traveling a pillow, um, just to have some sort of consistency in my schedule. But it's doable. It's just, I think, depending on the demand of the role, it limits your ability to go out and see a lot of the cities that you're in, which is often a wonderful thing about tours, that you're getting paid to travel, which is great. But I think this time around, I'm going to probably be much more of a monk and a hermit.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have you check in day one? What's the routine for you? Have you? I'm sure by now you've established something that works for you.
yeah. Let's see. We'll check into wherever I'm living, get my humidifier set up, get my groceries in order, figure out where the coffee spots are. And that's pretty much the essentials.
Have you found a favorite coffee spot in Schenectady yet?
Let's see. Buds on J. Is that the one that's almost directly across the street from Proctors?
Yeah.
We all went there yesterday. Our train got in like very, very early, before a lot of the hotels were available for check-in. So we all kind of wandered that little strip there with all
Yeah.
of the what is it, the Whistling Kettle? The
Yeah. Whistling tea kettle.
tea kettle. Yes, the Whistling tea kettle. So we scoped it out yesterday. Farmers market. I'm gonna scope it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They paved that over, they bricked it. Oh, goodness, 20 some odd years ago, maybe more. It used to be you could drive that street.
Oh wow.
And then
Yeah,
they
so now it's
paved
just
it.
pedestrian only. Oh my gosh. It
Yeah.
looks great.
Yeah, it's sweet. It comes and goes. It has moments where it's vibrant, and then it has moments where it should be vibrant.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. Are you how many people travel with you for swing? Is it a big, understudy cast?
Well, so we had actually an interesting situation on Broadway where our stage was big enough that we actually needed more bodies to fill the space for certain scenes. There's a scene in Act 1 and then a scene in Act 2. So I was actually an on-stage cover, and I would just be on stage to be in those two numbers. It was hilarious. So for tour, though, everything is kind of condensed. Everything is slightly smaller to make sure that we can fit in every theater that we go to. It's kind of brilliant how they've been able to kind of just slightly shave down the set. It's been a little disorienting for those of us who worked on the other one. But it does feel massive for the most part. So we don't need those extra bodies. So we have a smaller pool of our wonderful swings. I think we have four, and then one person who does need to be on stage for one of our numbers for our TikTok ballet. So it's like five-ish. Yeah. Which we had 8 before, and now it's been, condensed.
Swing just always blows my mind.
It's incredible. That was my first time doing it on Broadway, and I said, never again. It takes a very particular skill set to do it, and often those are the most talented people in the entire show. because they have to be able to do a variety of things at any moment's notice, and do it well and keep the show going. It's a very small pool of people in the entire industry that can do that really well.
There's a local fellow who we've interviewed on a few occasions, Richard Gatta,
Mhm.
who did that for Music Man,
Mm-hmm.
and then was eventually part of the cast. But I always think of it from the line from Chinatown: "My sister, my mother, my sister, my mother." You know, like, who are you?
Yeah, I know. Even doing this show, I still know like half the cast lines at this point. In rehearsal, I really had to like shake that off. My goodness. Because it really, when you learn something under duress, it stays with you in a way that it's just so hard to get rid of. But we have honestly, and we've only been together for, 4 weeks or so. This company all around is so brilliantly talented, and these are large shoes to fill, and everyone is so beautiful and genuine. And I think we're going to have a really good time. I think the country's really going to fall in love with a lot of these characters.
Is there anything else you want our listeners to know about this particular production of Company?
Ooh, yeah, let's see. Well, yeah, it's just, this show really encompasses a lot of big ideas, big hefty ideas. And, I think we just ask to watch and find what resonates with you as an audience member. We kind of put it in your hands, especially, me, Bobbie, I like to share with the audience, and I'm really excited to hear and see what people take of it. I think it's become this really beautiful moving piece. We also have just the most wonderful, fun set by Bunny Christie, who has our Tony for it. There's a lot of like find the hidden 35s throughout the set that I totally forgot about until I saw it last night for the first time ever. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. This is so brilliantly crafted. It's quite funny. It's there are a lot of hidden 35s, like the hidden Mickeys at Disneyland.
Ellen and I will have to sit there with our little checkoff sheet.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Ellen's got some specific questions before we wrap, but I'm going to jump that off. Start it with just asking you to talk a little bit about Star Kid, your Star Kids. It's your brush with Harry Potter.
Yeah. I went to the University of Michigan, and they have what's called Basement Arts, which is the whole student run, student produced, student directed, written type of thing. I think every school has something like that. We had a great group of writers come up with this idea for a Harry Potter parody musical. That's kind of like the beginning of the end there. It became so popular that we had to add shows. It was so popular, our parents couldn't see it. We couldn't come in. And that's why we actually recorded it, was so that the folks who couldn't get in to see it could watch it online. And this was in 2008, 2009, when YouTube was still relatively newish. And we put the whole filmed theater thing up online, and it became this viral sensation. I think we were one of the very first live filmed theater viral hits on YouTube ever. And then we did a sequel a couple of years later, and then we did a third one a couple of years after that. And at that time, the movies were still kind of coming out. So the Harry Potter fandom was large and it was wide, and the fan base really like latched on to this thing. And so then we became a full-fledged company called Starcade Productions, and they're based out of LA now, and they're still doing shows. During the pandemic, we did like a Christmas Carol type show that I was able to be involved with via Zoom, which was great. They're still like a very wonderfully full-fledged company. So kudos to them.
Wow, I'll definitely check that out. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's very fun. It's a very niche type of theater.
Now, how about Brittany, for you? What was the moment where you just knew, like, I have to do theater? That's what I'm going to do.
Oh gosh, I think. Mm, It's a very good question. I had a wonderful music teacher in elementary school who came in and did these really ambitious, like 45-minute condensed versions of musicals, and really introduced us to like these Broadway shows. And he put up a production of The Secret Garden and cast me as Mary, the little girl. This would have been third grade for me. And I loved it. And I think I pursued it every year after that. And then I was such an overachiever in high school. I was doing orchestra and choir and straight theater and dance. And then when it came to college, I thought, oh, I guess there's a whole musical theater major that I could, go to school with, and decided to combine all of the separate things into one passion, and got into the Michigan musical theater program there. So I stayed in Ann Arbor. It's great.
And what shows probably had the biggest impact on your life, whether it's something that you were involved in or just a show that you loved?
Yeah, my parents were, I think once they realized after that third grade production that I really enjoyed theater, they got the subscription packages in Detroit for all the tours coming through Detroit. And I remember there was a production of The Sound of Music. That tour came through. Peter Pan was another favorite of mine. God, I still love that score so much. I think it's on tour right now too. Actually, they're doing a new version of Peter Pan. I remember distinctly seeing those shows at the theater that we will be going to right after Schenectady in Detroit at the Fisher. So I'm really excited to revisit that theater this time on the other side.
Yeah. And real quickly before we run out of time, what would be your advice to any actor that's going to go on tour? What do you think is the things they should keep in mind?
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, if you know you're going on tour, invest in a good water bottle. I don't know. You got to have your creature comforts, but also pick the ones that are most easily travelable. And I don't know. You got to kind of slim down your possessions. You realize what really matters to you most on tour, because you're going to have to schlep it once a week. I would say less suitcases are better.
I think I'm hearing a question for us to put up on our Facebook page. If you were going on tour, what would be the 3 biggest creature comforts you have to have with you? Britney Coleman says you got to figure that out.
Absolutely.
Britney Coleman playing Bobbie at in Company, which opens on the 8th, but the official is October 11. Buy your tickets. She's in for a week. It will be spectacular, because if you just knowing the energy that you bring to this, gonna take the roof off of it. It will be fabulous. Can't wait to see you, Britney. Have a wonderful tour.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Britney. And for our listeners, it's been a pleasure. We'll catch you next time. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time. It's everything,